Hi everyone, welcome to Analytical Chemistry. My name is Roy Chisholm. I will be your Analytical Lab instructor for this term. Besides myself, we have 7 graduate student teaching assistants to help you with this class. 6 of them will be in the remote lab meeting settings and you'll be meeting them this week, as well as 1 which will be helping me with the lab help sessions that are live via Teams. So let's take this opportunity and take some time and go through how this lab is actually going to occur, because as we all know, this year is going to be a little bit different than we have in past years. So to start off, the laboratory component of this analytical class is worth 20% of your total class grade, so it's a significant portion. The way this is broken down for the lab is 10% of your grade is associated with your laboratory reports. So make sure you get your reports in on time. 5% of your grade is for participation, and 5% is for your final analytical media presentation. All of this information, as well as what I'll be discussing in this video, can be found on Brightspace as well as in your syllabus, so check it out for further details than what I'll be discussing here. So I know it's a little bit strange, but let's start this conversation with a discussion about philosophy and what this means actually in this remote laboratory setting. So to me, labs are vital for a thorough understanding of how chemistry works. You need to get in there, you need to touch the chemicals, you need to critically think about what you're doing and then troubleshoot it. So how are we going to do this in a remote setting? I strongly believe that labs in this type of setting need to be more than just assignments. And what I mean by that is during this term, you are going to be actively engaged in laboratory data collection, laboratory data analysis, as well as communication with your peers in these remote lab settings, as well as outside if you so choose. So the act of troubleshooting and going through a task, I strongly believe that you fundamentally understand the concept and the theories better than if you were just going through and reading a textbook. So take it like this. Imagine having never thrown a baseball ever in your life. And imagine you're tasked to go to a stadium and pitch in a professional baseball league. So if you've never thrown this before, you might know you take the ball in your hand and somehow it gets over to the plate. But it won't go very well, and even with me, having practiced many years, it still doesn't go very well. So what we need to do is practice, we need to troubleshoot, figure out where we went wrong, and then make improvements upon it and learn from our mistakes. And this is how I approach labs, both in person as well as what we will be doing here in the remote lab setting. I strongly believe labs are learning through active participation. Okay folks, let's get down and discuss the nitty-gritty details of the various components that you'll be doing in the lab this term. So first off, let's discuss the remote lab meetings. Remote lab meetings are designed in a way for 1 hour a week. You're going to be meeting a small group of your peers, as well as a graduate student, to discuss various aspects of the experiments that you'll be doing. Additionally, you'll be conducting data collection and data analysis in these meetings. So this is designed in a way for you to ask questions to the TA as well as your peers and strongly interact with each other. This is really going to be led by you guys, the students, and the TA is more of a mediator to guide the discussion and make sure you guys are on the correct path for understanding the material. You can find the weekly schedule for the various experiments on Brightspace. Under the weekly schedule, we have a full term schedule as well as we've broken it down in the separate weeks. So for instance, this week it's an introduction to Microsoft Teams and the remote lab meeting, and week number 2 you're going to be doing experiment 1. Okay, so in total we have 7 experiments. These are going to occur over 8 weeks, and then off weeks you'll be conducting various activities with your group leading up to the end of term presentation for your analytical media presentation. Part of the preparation for your remote lab meetings is obviously reading through an experiment and knowing what you're doing for the week, but also conducting and completing the Prelab Questions. So in each one of the experiments, there's a link to download the Prelab Questions, and you're requested to actually go through and do this, okay? So part of the participation marks, which I'll be discussing shortly, is for actually sharing your results and your thoughts, how you actually conducted the Prelab Questions, okay? So when you're doing this, what I would personally do is work out your Prelab Questions just on rough work, just loose leaf, separately and then take a picture using your cell phone or webcam of your work that you've collected, okay? So take a picture, upload this directly into the Prelab question file, and then save this on your computer. For the reason for this is when you come into a remote lab meeting, make sure you open up your Prelab question file, and then when it's your turn, you will be asked to describe and share how you went through this problem, okay? So what I would recommend is the sharing feature, which I've described in the Microsoft Teams tutorial, and your peers will be able to see exactly what you did. You'll be able to point and even draw on your work, okay? And what's really awesome about Microsoft Teams is your peers as well as the TA can draw directly on your file, so you could save that feedback and use that feedback for completing your final report. Okay, and I want to be 100% transparent and clear on how these pre-labs will be evaluated. There will be 0 grades for the correct answer. And actually, in some cases, there will be more than one correct answer, and each of these answers will have discussions for it. What I'm looking for, and this is part of my philosophy, is that you attempt and try to overcome the challenges and struggles associated with these questions. In your meetings, this is where you'll discuss it and share it with your peers and get feedback. And part of our philosophy, learn from your mistakes. So there's 0 grade for having the correct answer, but make sure you bring in and show all your work, because that is how you'll be receiving participation grades. Your experimental reports are located at the end of each of your experiment tabs on Brightspace. So in there, you can click on the link and download the Microsoft Word file. Again, it's very similar to the pre-lab questions. Make sure you take pictures of your rough work and include it directly in the file. We don't want to be having to look for your files or having separate files for your images, whatnot. Make sure it's all contained in one file, and it'll be easy to mark and provide feedback on this. Reports are due 1 week after you conduct it. So for instance, if you conducted your experiment on a Wednesday, the following Wednesday by 11:59 p.m., you need to submit your experimental report. Reports are to be submitted via the Brightspace Dropbox for the experiments. So you simply just upload your file and it's good to go. And I'll be downloading these at the appropriate times to make sure no one submitted late. And I just want to be clear, no late labs will receive any grades. So make sure you do this and get it in on time. And in fact, you can even submit this earlier, because I really promote working on your reports early, work on it during these remote lab meetings, and get it done so that there's no issues at all. The following week, you'll be working on other activities and experiments. There will be no time to ask questions about those reports, so don't try that. So really take advantage of these remote lab meetings. This is a resource to interact with your peers, get feedback from each other, critically think and troubleshoot on various problems, collect data and try to interpret it. And if you need help, a TA is always there to help give you guidance. But I've been training the TAs to more guide you and push you in the correct direction rather than giving you the final answer. Now let's talk about participation grades, because it's worth 5%, which isn't a small amount. So to receive full participation grades, you need to be actively engaged in these remote lab meetings. So what that means is preparing beforehand, reading up on the material, doing your pre-labs, and also being engaged by sharing your pre-lab questions and sharing data when called upon. So in there, you'll be collecting data, sharing it, discussing it. This is what the TAs will be looking for to give you the check mark that yes, you participated actively in the remote lab meeting. Now let's say you miss one of these remote lab meetings for whatever reason. Don't panic. Initially, you will receive a 0 for participation grades, but at the end of term, when we're tallying the 5%, we'll drop your lowest grade. So it's almost like you can miss one of these remote lab meetings by accident for whatever reason. I just want to be clear though, you are still required to do the experimental lab report, which is due the following week. So in these remote lab meetings, the TAs and students will be saving the data in the appropriate breakout room, and you are still called upon if you need that data to complete your experimental lab report. No lab reports shall be accepted late, and there will be no make-up remote lab meeting. Now let's talk about these analytical media presentations that will be occurring at the end of term. So as scientists, we need to think critically about the world around us, be it chemistry, biology, whatever, even the media describing things to you. You can't always trust what someone says to you or what organizations state. So this analytical media presentation is an opportunity for you as a group to come up with a topic, select it, debate it, and come up with and describe the various sides and aspects related to a subject matter. And so what I mean by that, topics can range all over the map. Are GMO foods safe to eat? What is causing global warming? Does cannabis cure cancer? And you could even be a little bit funny and comical. Is the earth flat? So in all these topics, you would need to evaluate and discuss the various sides of the subject and present it. Finally, in this presentation, you'll be ending with a conclusion, either for one side of the statement or the other, or maybe even there is no side to choose in this. Okay, so my best advice would be pick a topic that you find fun and interesting, because this is supposed to be a lighthearted presentation and to get you to start to critically think about the world all around you. More information will be provided throughout the term, and you can also check out the Brightspace forum entitled Analytical Media Presentation, and I've uploaded various topics for you to click on and you can read about and get some inspiration for what you could be presenting as a group. So if you ever find yourself needing lab help, we have a whole variety of different resources available for you. So one, as we mentioned, the remote lab meetings. This is a place to discuss with your peers as well as a TA and gain some help in understanding the material. I will also be providing lab help on Monday and Tuesday evenings between 6 and 7 on Microsoft Teams in the general site. So just log in and you'll be able to find me there and ask questions. If you want to have more one-on-one interaction solely related to administrative tasks. So what I mean by that is if I've inputted a lab grade wrong or you're questioning some of the marking, you can book an appointment with me on Monday afternoon between 1 and 2. We have a scheduled time using the Bookings app. Additionally, we've created a Brightspace forum for each one of your labs. So you can post questions there so you and your peers can interact on the forum answering questions or trying to debate subject matter. So myself as well as the TAs will be monitoring this and maybe jumping in, posing our own questions. Okay, so that's also a resource that you can be using throughout the term. So a couple final notes before we conclude this video. Throughout the term, at the beginning of some experiments, there'll be a message from outside the classroom. What this is a short video from a peer, usually someone is a former Dalhousie chemistry graduate, describing their research and what they do that's directly related to the lab that you're conducting right now. So feel free to watch these videos. It will give you a nice perspective of what you're actually doing and how it relates to the outside world. But also, I know firsthand that these folks are currently hiring students as well as researchers within their companies and groups. So check it out. It's a good exercise. Additionally, if you guys want to just pop in on Tuesday night, September 8th, I'll be hosting my first lab help session. Pop in, introduce yourself, meet the group. We're all pretty friendly. That's it for now. All the best. I'm looking forward to a great term. See you soon.